This episode of Expedition Mystery is brought to you by Mastermind, nootropic for supervillains. Whether you're trying to take over the world or cramming for evil medical school, Mastermind, nootropic for supervillains is your go-to cognitive enhancer. A caffeine-free concoction of all-natural ingredients, specially formulated to boost your brains when you need it the most. Mastermind, nootropic for supervillains, from drmystery.com. Link in the show notes. The disappearance of Ben Padilla, John Mutantu, and a whole damn 727. On May 25, 2003, an unthinkable event unfolded at Quatro de Fevereiro Airport in Luanda, Angola. A Boeing 727-223 airliner, registered as N844AA, vanished without a trace, sparking a global search led by law enforcement and intelligence agencies. Despite extensive investigations, the aircraft and its presumed occupants have never been located. This baffling case remains one of the most intriguing mysteries in aviation history. The aircraft in question, a Boeing 727-223 with serial number 20985, was manufactured in 1975 and served American Airlines for 25 years. In 2000, it was sold to Aerospace Sales and Leasing, a Miami-based company. By March 2002, the plane had been grounded in Angola, accruing over $4 million in unpaid airport fees while awaiting conversion for use by Nigeria's IRS Airlines. Described by the FBI as an unpainted silver aircraft with a blue and white stripe, the 727 had undergone modifications. Its passenger seats were removed to make room for diesel fuel transportation. These changes made it operationally unique, but also raised questions about its intended use and subsequent disappearance. On the evening of May 25, 2003, just before sunset, two men were believed to have boarded the plane. Ben C. Padilla, an experienced flight engineer and pilot from the United States, and John M. Mutantu, a mechanic from the Republic of Congo. Neither was certified to operate a Boeing 727, as this type of aircraft typically requires a crew of 3. Despite this, U.S. authorities believe Padilla may have been at the controls. Witness accounts are conflicting. While some airport personnel reported seeing 2 individuals aboard, others claimed there was only one person. What followed was even more perplexing. The aircraft began taxiing without communicating with air traffic control. Maneuvering erratically, it entered the runway unannounced. Despite repeated attempts by air traffic controllers to establish contact, the aircraft's radio remained silent. Without activating its lights, the 727 took off, heading southwest over the Atlantic Ocean. At the time of the disappearance, the aircraft was fueled with approximately 14,000 gallons of fuel, giving it a range of around 1,500 miles. This capacity allowed it to reach several potential destinations, further complicating the search. However, after its takeoff, neither the aircraft nor its occupants were ever seen again. No debris or evidence has surfaced to indicate its fate. Several theories have emerged over the years to explain the aircraft's disappearance. Padilla's family believes he was flying the plane, possibly under duress, and either crashed somewhere in Africa or was abducted. This suspicion is shared by Aerospace Sales and Leasing President Maury Joseph, who had inspected the plane shortly before it vanished. However, investigators have also scrutinized Joseph, given his history of accounting fraud, raising the possibility that the theft was tied to a financial dispute or scam. Another theory speculates that the plane was stolen for illicit purposes, such as smuggling or terrorism. The 727's modifications for transporting diesel fuel might indicate a connection to organized crime or black market activities. However, no evidence has surfaced to support such claims. In July 2003, a potential sighting of the aircraft was reported in Conakry, Guinea, but U.S. State Department officials conclusively ruled it out as a match. Beyond this lead, efforts to trace the plane have yielded no credible results. Despite exhaustive investigations, the fate of the men and the 727 remains a mystery. A 2010 article in Air and Space Smithsonian explored the case extensively but failed to provide definitive answers. Interviews with experts and individuals familiar with the incident only deepened the enigma. Speculation continues to surround the motives, circumstances, and possible aftermath of the plane's disappearance. The case has become a touchstone for discussions on aviation security, raising questions about airport protocols and the challenges of tracking stolen aircraft. It also highlights the limitations of technology and intelligent networks in cases involving vast geographical areas and limited initial information. The theft and disappearance of John Mutantu, Ben Padilla, and the 727 is a haunting reminder of the mysteries that can persist in a modern world. With no evidence, leads, or verified sightings, the case sits at the crossroads of aviation history, criminal investigation, and global intrigue. Whether the aircraft crashed, was hidden, or was used for nefarious purposes, its fate continues to elude explanation, leaving a trail of unanswered questions that may never be resolved. The disappearance of LeeAnna Warner. On June 14, 2003, 5-year-old LeeAnna Warner disappeared while walking home from a friend's house in Chisholm, Minnesota. Her suspected abduction sparked an exhaustive search and years of investigation, but no trace of LeeAnna has ever been found. Despite over 1,700 leads and multiple suspects, the case remains unsolved. LeeAnna's disappearance continues to haunt her community, leaving questions that may never be answered. Born on January 21, 1998, LeeAnna Warner, affectionately called Beaner by her family, was a spirited and brave child. Her parents, Christopher Warner and Tiffany Kaylin Whitaker, had recently moved to Chisholm, hoping to build a fresh start in the small mining town. LeeAnna was known for her outgoing nature and independence, qualities that made her disappearance even more perplexing. The events leading to LeeAnna's disappearance began with a routine afternoon. The Warrens had returned home from a rummage sale at Side Lake, where they had spent the day. Despite her mother's suggestion to rest, LeeAnna insisted on visiting a friend who lived just a block and a half away. Kaylin reluctantly agreed, setting a 5 p.m. curfew. LeeAnna left home at 4:30 p.m. and arrived at her friend's house, only to find no one there. Witnesses later reported seeing her walking barefoot on Southwest 2nd or 3rd Street between 5 and 5:15 p.m., heading back toward her home. When LeeAnna failed to return, Kaylin grew concerned and began searching the neighborhood by 5:30 p.m., enlisting help from neighbors. By 9 p.m., with no sign of LeeAnna, the Warrens contacted the Chisholm Police Department. What followed was a massive search involving local volunteers, firefighters, expert trackers, and law enforcement. Bloodhounds combed through garages, sheds, and abandoned mines, while helicopters scoured the area. Despite these extensive efforts, no clues emerged. Weeks later, a set of footprints near Longyear Lake offered a glimmer of hope. The lake was drained, but the search yielded no evidence of LeeAnna's presence. Efforts were renewed the following summer, but the case remained at a standstill. As of 2024, LeeAnna's fate is still unknown, and the case remains an open investigation. Over the years, several suspects and theories have been explored, but none have provided definitive answers. LeeAnna's parents, Christopher and Kaylin, were not considered suspects. However, Christopher's strained relationship with his ex-wife raised some suspicions. He had sought a restraining order against her and claimed she had made threats against Kaylin and LeeAnna. Investigators found no evidence linking her to the case. Kaylin, who tragically passed away in 2022, was also not implicated. Despite their cooperation, the family eventually moved away from Chisholm, stating the town no longer felt safe. One of the most prominent suspects was Matthew James Curtis, a local man arrested for possessing CP shortly after LeeAnna's disappearance. Curtis lived near the family home, and investigators believed he might have been involved. Authorities searched his truck for DNA evidence but found nothing linking him to LeeAnna. In September 2003, Curtis was found dead in his pickup truck, having apparently committed suicide. While some speculated foul play, the case was officially closed with no connection to LeeAnna established. Convicted sex offender Joseph Edward Duncan III also drew attention. In 2004, investigators found encrypted files on his computer referencing LeeAnna's disappearance. However, a timeline of his movements indicated he was not in Chisholm at the time. In the weeks leading up to her disappearance, LeeAnna exhibited unusual behavior. She told her parents she had received Barbie dolls from a little old lady and packed a suitcase, claiming she wanted to live with a new family. Investigators dismissed this as unrelated, finding no evidence of someone luring LeeAnna away with toys. Witnesses reported seeing several suspicious individuals in the area on the day of LeeAnna's disappearance. One was a man in his mid-30s with a dark tattoo on his arm, while another was a man driving a maroon Cadillac. A rusty brown pickup truck was also spotted near the area. Despite these descriptions, none of these individuals have been identified or linked to the case. The disappearance of LeeAnna Warner devastated her family and left the Chisholm community in fear. Parents became more vigilant, and trust among neighbors was shaken. While police continued to receive occasional leads, the lack of physical evidence makes progress difficult. In 2020, Chisholm Police Chief Vern Manor remarked, "We still have several persons of interest, but we don't have any evidence." This sentiment underscores the frustrating reality of the case. Theories abound, but proof remains elusive. LeeAnna's disappearance is a chilling reminder of how quickly an ordinary day can turn tragic. Her case highlights the difficulties of solving missing persons cases, particularly when the evidence is scarce. For her family and community, the search for answers continues, fueled by hope and an enduring determination to find the truth. Though the years have passed, LeeAnna's memory lives on, a symbol of innocence lost and the enduring quest for justice. The disappearance of Terrance Williams and Felipe Santos. In 2003 and 2004, two men, Felipe Santos and Terrance Williams, vanished under strikingly similar circumstances in Naples, Florida. Both men were last seen in the custody of Steve Calkins, a deputy with the Collier County Sheriff's Department. Despite years of investigation and public scrutiny, their cases remain unsolved, leaving their families and communities desperate for answers. Terrance Williams, born in Chattanooga, Tennessee, and a father of four, had recently moved to Naples to be closer to his mother, Marcia Williams. On January 11, 2004, Williams attended a party despite having an expired car registration and a suspended license. He never returned home. The next day, his car was found towed from Naples Memorial Cemetery, signed off by Deputy Steve Calkins. Witnesses at the cemetery reported that Calkins had stopped Williams, patted him down, and placed him in the back of his patrol car. Strangely, Calkins returned to the scene later and moved the car to block traffic, contradicting his initial claim that it was abandoned. When questioned, Calkins gave inconsistent accounts, first denying and later admitting to interacting with Williams. Calkins stated in his report that he dropped Williams off at a nearby Circle K convenience store. However, surveillance footage and phone records revealed no evidence supporting this claim. In fact, Circle K employees reported never seeing Williams or Calkins that day. Despite these inconsistencies, no charges were brought against Calkins. 3 months earlier, Felipe Santos, a 24-year-old undocumented immigrant from Mexico, disappeared under eerily similar circumstances. On October 14, 2003, Santos was involved in a minor car accident while on his way to work. Calkins cited Santos for driving without a license and reportedly took him into custody. However, Santos was never booked into jail. Calkins later claimed that he had decided not to arrest Santos and instead dropped him off at a different Circle K. Santos's family and co-workers expressed skepticism. His employer, who had arrived at the accident scene, found it odd that Calkins didn't release Santos to him, especially since his workplace was nearby. Witnesses from the accident stated that Calkins appeared frustrated about Santos's lack of documentation, adding to suspicions about his motives. Both disappearances prompted extensive investigations that uncovered troubling inconsistencies in Calkins' actions and statements. A recorded dispatch call from Calkins revealed that his claim that Williams' car was abandoned, contradicting eyewitness accounts that he had moved the vehicle himself. Calkins was also heard mocking Williams' car, calling it a homey Cadillac, and joking about Williams potentially being in the cemetery. Further investigations into Calkins' patrol car and locations yielded no concrete evidence. Cadaver dogs surveyed areas where GPS data placed his vehicle, but no human remains were found. Polygraph tests administered to Calkins yielded mixed results, with one indicating deception. In 2012, the cases gained renewed attention through media coverage on Disappeared, Dateline NBC, and other programs. In 2018, civil rights attorney Benjamin Crump filed a wrongful death lawsuit against Calkins on behalf of the Williams family, but the case was ultimately dismissed. Theories about what happened to Williams and Santos abound. Some suggest they may have voluntarily disappeared to avoid legal troubles. Santos was undocumented and Williams had a warrant for unpaid child support. However, their families firmly reject this idea, emphasizing their strong ties to loved ones. Another theory draws parallels to the Starlight Tours, a controversial practice in which police officers abandon individuals in remote areas, leaving them to fend for themselves. This practice, documented in Canada, has raised questions about whether Calkins might have left Williams and Santos in the nearby Everglades. However, investigators have noted that Calkins' movements that day do not align with a trip to such a distant location. Speculations about Calkins' motives has ranged from accidental deaths during encounters to deliberate foul play. Some believe others may have been involved, but no evidence supports this claim. The unresolved nature of these cases has drawn national attention. In 2018, actor and producer Tyler Perry offered a $200,000 reward for information leading to answers. Civil rights leaders like Al Sharpton and organizations like the NAACP have amplified calls for justice. Perry's documentary series, Never Seen Again, further highlighted the mysterious disappearances and the systemic failures that may have allowed them to go unresolved. Despite increased public awareness, progress has been slow. In 2020, Marsha Williams faced financial penalties after her wrongful death lawsuit was dismissed, compounding her grief and frustration. Felipe Santos' wife, Apollonia Cruz Cortez, has expressed concerns about the quality of the investigation, noting that authorities never interviewed her. Terrance Williams was legally declared dead in 2009, but his and Felipe Santos' families continue to seek justice. The lack of definitive evidence and the inconsistencies in Calkins' accounts have left a cloud of suspicion hanging over him. Meanwhile, Calkins, who was fired from the sheriff's department in 2004, moved out of Florida in 2016 and has largely avoided public scrutiny since. The disappearances of Williams and Santos remain among the most troubling cases in Florida's history, highlighting issues of accountability, systemic bias, and the power dynamics that can obstruct justice. For the families of these two men, the fight continues, not only to find their loved ones, but also to ensure that no other family suffers the same fate. The disappearance of Kirk von Ackermann. Kirk von Ackermann, an American contractor, vanished under mysterious circumstances in Iraq on October 9, 2003. Despite years of investigation, his fate remains unknown. In 2006, his family received a presumption of death of a citizen abroad certificate, though he has not been officially declared dead. Von Ackermann was a decorated intelligence officer in the U.S. Air Force, having previously served as a Russian linguist in the Army. Notably, he was Deputy Director of Intelligence for NATO operations in Kosovo in 1999, earning recognition for operations behind enemy lines. Before traveling to Iraq, he worked as a manager at Siebel Systems in California and lived with his wife Megan and their 3 children. While employed by Ultra Services of Istanbul, von Ackermann disappeared during the drive between Kirkuk and Tikrit. His car was discovered abandoned with $40,000 and his equipment left untouched. Shortly before his disappearance, he called a colleague, Ryan G. Menelik, to request a tire jack. Menelik was later killed in a drive-by shooting on December 14, 2003, after leaving Camp Anaconda. Both cases are under investigation by the U.S. Army's Criminal Investigation Command, but no definitive conclusions have been reached. The prevailing theory is that von Ackermann may have been the target of a botched kidnapping attempt, though his body was never recovered. The CID has kept von Ackermann's case active, withholding key details from the public. The Defense POW MIA accounting agency lists him among 5 missing Department of Defense personnel or contractors since the Gulf War. Kirk von Ackermann's disappearance remains an enduring mystery, symbolizing the dangers faced by contractors in conflict zones. His family continues to live with unanswered questions, holding on to hope for closure. Some people disappear without a trace, as if the hand of some eldritch thing reached out from the shadows and took them. Some no doubt met a terrible end at the hands of their fellow man. Others still came by their fate by their own hand. Whatever the case, if you have any knowledge of the fate of any of the aforementioned cases, reach out to the relevant authorities so that the families of the missing might find some closure. Like and subscribe if you've enjoyed this narration. Expedition Mystery, signing off.